So we're here at Rise with Eric Maczko, who is executive chef for Pine Ridge Winery and the Crimson Wine Group. And Eric, I gather you are a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America.
Yes. So
let me ask you the question I asked to everybody from the CIA. What was your grade in waterboarding? Sorry, very unfair. More relevant question. You're actually the executive chef of a winery that I understand doesn't have a restaurant. So what do you cook?
So my role at the winery, I'm going to say probably trifold. Mainly what we do are corporate events in our cave. We have a 35,000 square foot cave. It's about 7/10 of a mile long. And in the back of it we have a banquet room which we can fit up to 140 guests for corporate dinner.
Let me ask you about matching food and wine. In Dallas, one of the growing types of food is ethnic food. Let me take two ethnic foods and ask you what wines you would match with them and what criteria you would use. Let's say, first of all, Mexican food. If you were serving wine with Mexican food, what wines would you choose and why would you choose them?
So if we're talking about interior Mexican food, you know, like Rick Bayless, the moles and the classic use of multiple types of chiles and things like that, I think red wine is quite appropriate unless you get very spicy dishes. So a Cabernet, Napa Cabernet, one of our Merlots, possibly a Pinot Noir, I think is going to be appropriate based on the composition of the dish and the composition of the mole itself. With spicy food like ceviche or things that have spicy chilies in them, I would think a wine with rather low alcohol like our Chenin Blanc Viognier, about 11.5% alcohol, with a little bit of residual sugar. It's going to help to soften the impact of heat on the palate, as well as the fact that it doesn't have any oak on it, and therefore doesn't have any bitterness. From oak, from tannin, and from alcohol can really agitate and flare up the agitation on the palate that chilies give. I think other great options, you know, Mosel Riesling is another great go-to because typically low in alcohol, 7 to 9%, vinified off-dry, no oak, high acid. These are the types of wines that I think work really well with spicy food, and I think having citrus qualities in the dish can really complement those white varieties like Chenin, like Riesling.
So what's the nub of the problem with high alcohol wines, the kind of 15%ers that you see nowadays?
The problem as far as pairing, it becomes that alcohol becomes a factor in the pairing. And alcohol mocks the sensation of richness on the palate, sometimes even accentuates sweetness on the palate. So if you want to balance alcohol a little bit, fat can help you do that. So the use of oils or the use of butter can actually mock the sensation, the richness, and the palate coating texture that alcohol can tend to have. So highly fatty dishes or dishes with richness to them in the form of fat can actually be the best pairing with high alcohol wines.
Okay, and then another common component of wine is tannin. What does tannin do when it reacts with food?
The best thing that you can do if you want to mitigate tannin is use salt to your benefit. Salt temporarily blocks the tongue's ability to send the message of acid to the brain, and whether it be malic acid or tartaric acid, or in the form of red wines, tannic acid, which causes bitterness on the palate, salt can actually help to mitigate that and minimize the impact that tannin has. Tannin can be complementary to certain things that have bitterness, but keep them in balance.
Right.
Too much bitterness in the dish is going to accentuate bitterness in the wine.
Eric Maczko, thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.